Hello friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Y'all, the roses are in full bloom and I have to share them with you. They are absolutely stunning right now in our North Carolina Zone 8A garden. They're too pretty not to share with you. So we're going to take a rose garden tour. I have got various roses all throughout the garden, so we're going to highlight these, share them with you, hopefully inspire you. If you've been afraid to grow roses, maybe you think they're a little too hard, they're too much of divas in the garden, I am going to share my tips and tricks with you to get gorgeous roses even in the heat and humidity of the southeast. Of course, we keep it real with you, but again, they are gorgeous. They smell divine, so let's have some fun looking at beautiful roses this morning together. We are going to start with Princess Anne. Princess Anne is a rose standard, meaning that it has been grown into a tree form. So what you call a standard is a shrub that would typically be a shrub made into a tree. Princess Anne is from David Austin. I bought her as a standard from David Austin. And y'all, she is unbelievable. And she's really not even at her peak right now because we have still tons of buds that are yet to open. Princess Anne, of course, gives us these massive, rich pink flowers, classic old rose fragrance, and just loaded with blooms. I had to get Princess Anne because my mama's name is Anne, and so I say that this is her rose. Makes great cut flowers and is just a huge statement piece here in this in our cottage garden, rather. Makes a huge impact. Of course, the bees love her. We all love Princess Anne. One of the most important things you can do for your roses is to prune them every late winter. So every late winter is going to depend on the calendar as far as your growing zone. For me in North Carolina, that can look as early as like end of January into February. You want to prune your roses. All roses benefit from a nice heavy prune in late winter. The only exception would be the old-timey climbing roses. But other than that, every single rose, whether it is a David Austin, a Proven Winners, a Knockout, it does not matter who the breeder is. They benefit from being pruned because roses will bloom on new growth. So when we prune them, we're encouraging that plant to put out new growth when the warmer temperatures come, and with all that new growth comes these beautiful flowers. Now we are doing this pretty early in the morning because the videos show better. The plants and the flowers are highlighted better in not in the full sun. But Princess Anne, along with all of my roses, get full sun. Anywhere, that means a minimum of like 6 hours or more. She gets full hot afternoon sun. So right now it's about 9 o'clock in the morning. Around 11, it'll be in full sun, and it gets the sun until the sun goes down. I like telling people that because it does make a difference as far as how much sun that your roses get. So Princess Anne standard, unbelievable. Now, just beyond Princess Anne, up in the garden boxes, in the center garden box, I have a Rise Up Amberness. This is from Proven Winners. It is a miniature climber in the fact of it'll get in that 5 to 6 foot range. It is not going to be a massive climber, but Rise Up Amberness gets its name for those beautiful amber colored blooms. It is just stunning. It too is just really kind of coming out into its own. I have it here in a trellis / obelisk. I got this from H. Potter. It is quite tall. Of course, I have it nestled down into the garden box for nice and stability. But Rise Up Amberness gives us those beautiful amber colored blooms and also has an absolutely beautiful, delicious fragrance to it. So you can find this, online. You can go to your local garden center, but the Rise Up series from Proven Winners is great for where you want something with more height than a shrub rose, but you don't want the massive size of a traditional climber. So Rise Up Amberness, beautiful fragrance, classic rose fragrance with those beautiful amber colored blooms. Last year at the chicken coop, I added a climbing rose from David Alston. And I'm probably gonna butcher the name, y'all. This is Tess of d'Urberville. Uh, so it is kind of a medium climbing red rose. Last year it was struggling a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. So she is a beautiful, really double bloom, nice red, has a little bit of some pink undertones to it, but she is stunning, doing a great job this year as far as putting out the buds. And yes, if the roses kind of, if the chickens kind of peck on the roses, you know what? It is not the end of the world. But this one is fun. I did not prune it as I probably should. So I'm all about keeping things real with you people, because we all, everybody has crazy, chaotic lives at times, and there is grace in gardening, right? I didn't really prune this one this year. While she is doing great, she's probably could be doing a little bit better. But that is the thing. Roses actually are very, very forgiving. And so when you can get out there and do what you can, then they still will give you these gorgeous flowers. So we are going into this second summer for Tess. And this part of the chicken coop up here is not on irrigation. So I have to hand water this. Both the Rose Standard, the Princess Anne, and the Rise Up Amberness, they are on automatic drip underground. This I have to hand water. But roses love compost. So every kind of late winter, or when I redo, especially like this chicken coop and all the other beds, I always add an extra layer of compost. They love that rich organic matter. It is a great source of food for them, so they do well. But Tess is an example of grace in gardening. Even if you don't prune them like you're supposed to every late winter, they still will give you those gorgeous flowers. And then here we have another Rise Up from Proven Winners. This is Rise Up Ember Rays. Y'all, sometimes the camera does not adequately pick up the colors of this rose, but when it's called Ember Rays, it is called that for a reason, because they have all sorts of fiery sunset colors to it. So you have a bud that almost has like an orange red hue to it. As they mature, they turn this lovely kind of a pink coral. They've got yellow in there. They are unbelievable. You want to talk about a massive flower power to this rose. This is it. I can actually see it. If you can see the house back there, from my kitchen windows, I can see this shining in all of her glory. It is such a beautiful, bright, like grabs your attention kind of rose. Unbelievable. And then you can see the older blooms right here turning a soft pink. Now, with your roses, they do appreciate being deadheaded. Ember Rays was one of the first roses to bloom for me this season. That's why she's a little bit more advanced. Roses do like to be deadheaded. So what does deadheading mean? Deadheading means is that once that flower is done, you go in there and you trim it back. So that I have got some deadheading to do on her. You can do it selectively and just do that individual flower that has already passed its prime. Or if the whole cluster has already been passed, then you can trim that. Traditionally, the rosarians will say to go down to the first set of 5 leaves and trim it there. Honestly, if you want to do that, that's great. But like I said, there is grace in gardening, and if you just go in there and prune it a little bit, trust me, all will be well. When you do that, your roses, again, will put on that new growth, and then they flower again. For me, historically, I have 2 best flushes of flowers in the spring and then again in the fall. Not to say that they won't periodically put flowers on, but definitely the spring and then the fall are my heaviest flowers. And then with my heat and humidity, the spring is definitely the best crop because not only do I get the gorgeous flowers, but my foliage is still looking beautiful. Now, let's head to the back patio because, oh my stars, they're gorgeous. If you are a viewer of Gardening with Creekside, then you are probably familiar with this rose arch. This is going to lead us in to the back patio. She's not quite in full bloom yet, but y'all, she is headed that way. This is the Generous Gardener from David Alston. I have two on this arch. The arch came from Kinsman Garden Company because everybody's going to ask, but the Generous Gardener is a generous climber that does classic pink roses with that classic old rose fragrance. And y'all, she is vigorous, she is beautiful, she is a beautiful beast with gorgeous flowers that smell delicious and divine. This is an old, little bit of an older bloom right here, but just is a great, great rose. I joke and I say that I probably could have gotten away with doing just one of the Generous Gardener because, like I said, she's generous, my friends. But I did too, and she has not disappointed. Classic rose fragrance again, but just is an unbelievable specimen of a climbing rose. Now, this one also is on drip irrigation. We have the drip down in, of course, in the landscape. And so it gets watered from below. Right now, because we are in a severe drought, about once a day for 15 minutes or so. One of the most common problems that plague roses, especially in the areas with heat and humidity, is black spot. And black spot is just a fungus. That's literally what it sounds like. You get little black spots on the leaves. They'll eventually kind of turn to yellow and they will fall off. I do battle that. And so if anybody's going to get black spot, it is going to be that rose. Not even this side, it's going to be this side. And I think probably is because it is the side that's closest to the forest pansy. So perhaps it gets a little bit less direct sun on the one side. And so every year, typically I will get black spot on this rose at the very end of the year. Now, historically, black spot is not going to kill your roses. It is really just an appearance issue, right? Because it makes it look ugly. And if it does get out of control, then you're going to lose a lot of the leaves. Once you get black spot, you can't really get rid of it as far as each season. So your best treatment is a preventative treatment. So I am using a systemic fungicide. This is going to help protect the plant, give the plant the necessary tools and weapons to protect itself against that black spot attacking it. We are very, very dry right now. Like I said, we are in a severe drought. I kind of joke and I said, well, I think this must be what it feels like to garden in California because the temperatures are cool in the morning and then they're quite warm in the afternoon. We have clear, gorgeous skies, but the air is very dry. So we have very low humidity and low dew point. And of course, no rain. So any kind of water, we're having to water. But the plants and the roses are looking exceptional because there is not that oppressive humidity that is hurting them. So if you have black spot, you want to treat it before you see it. Once you see it, you can kind of manage it. They say what you need to do is pull off all the diseased, infected leaves and throw them away. Don't put them in your compost. We want to put them in the trash. But the Generous Gardener, she is generous. She's about to be in full bloom. Love this rose. And then as we make our way to the back patio, this is where they are absolutely shining. So excuse, I forgot to put my hose up. Again, I just keep it real with you, y'all. So I've been watering like crazy, making sure that my new annuals are nice and well watered. But here we go. On this wall, on the patio, this is like the back of the garage, so it's a massive wall that is blank. So when we were designing this, I wanted to have roses here, and then the trellises each have the same clematis. Clematis and roses go together really, really well. People always ask, The trellises are from Gardener Supply. I ordered them years ago. All right, now for the roses. First of all, we have Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a David Austin. All of these roses on the back porch are from David Austin. Elizabeth is one of the newer introductions to the line. This is her second year in the landscape. The first year I got her, she was very, very small, and I had her in a container in the backyard. She did well that first year, and then she outgrew the pot and I had to move her. So she got moved here last year. Did okay, adjusting to her new home, but this year, oh my goodness, she is in all of her glory. Beautiful, really kind of a cream with a little bit of a hint of pink to her. Again, classic old rose fragrance. That is my preferred fragrance with my roses. But I could not be happier with how well she is doing. I need to come in and do a little bit of deadheading, but just unbelievable. She is going to be the last one to be in the sun just because of the way that the landscape is and the sun is, but she gets sun until the hot afternoon. So while she's the last to get the sun, she's also the last to lose the sun, if that makes any kind of sense. So Elizabeth, there you go. And then moving on over next door, we have Gertrude Jekyll. Now this is probably Jerry's favorite rose. Gertrude Jekyll is going to be a beautiful, nice, much deeper pink to it. Has again, classic, really strong, classic old rose fragrance. You can see deadheading needs to take place. I keep it real with you, my friends, but that does not take away from the absolute beauty of this rose. And of course, your roses, y'all cut them, bring them in the house, make vases, little bud vases, enjoy them because the fragrance is unbelievable. And then of course, the beauty. So Gertrude Jekyll, here you go with her. She's gonna be, quote, my hottest pink back here. And that's why she is in the middle. And then next door, we have Sceptered Isle. This is the one I did a Instagram reel the other day, and people were like, what is that rose? She's gorgeous. She is beautiful for sure. She has been in here probably, gosh, what, 5 years now. Was one of my original David Austins that I got. She has much more like a softer pink. She is more pink than Elizabeth, but not as hot as Gertrude. And she will open up and have these beautiful, nice cupped flowers. Now, fragrance-wise, probably my least favorite. That is because she has notes of myrrh. And so it is not the classic old rose fragrance. But I don't really care, honestly, y'all. She is so incredibly beautiful that she will always have a place in my garden and does really, really well. You can see she has still got so many buds left to be opened here. But Sceptered Isle is a beautiful rose from David Austin with those notes of myrrh. Okay, so the sun beat us, but that's all right. We're going to do our best here, y'all. Okay, here I have 2 Desdemona roses. Again, David Austin. Desdemona, one of my absolute favorites flowers. It is classic old rose. This is the baby. So I started out with a Desdemona on the left, and then I had Emily Bronte on the right, and Emily Bronte got too big, and so I was like, you know what, let's just bring it back and let's have 2 Desdemonas. So last year I added a new bare root of the Desdemona, and this one is catching up quite quickly to the original Desdemona. But Desdemona is still going to be considered a pink flower, but you can see it's much more lighter, almost like a cream, has kind of that pink peachy center to it. Again, classic old rose fragrance. Unbelievable. Probably not the best cut flower because it doesn't hold really well as far as being inside, but she is beautiful and she is absolutely the best smelling rose ever. Next to Black Spot, the I dare even say this is a bigger problem than black spot in the South. If you have roses, if you live in the South, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, our beloved Japanese beetle. Oh my gosh, y'all. This critter is an absolute thorn in my side as a Southern gardener. And now I can't even say it's just in the South. They have made their way kind of almost all over the country now. But Japanese beetles do love roses. Again, they're not going to kill your rose, but my goodness, they are going to make it look ugly because they're going to eat. They eat the blooms, they'll eat on the leaves. They are just, there's not even words. If you have Japanese beetles, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, folks, there is, how do I take care of the Japanese beetles? Because people ask me this all the time. One, there is no organic solution to Japanese beetles. There is not an organic spray chemical that you can treat your flowers with that will kill Japanese beetles. They are a beetle, so they have a hard body. So nothing that you would spray on them is going to get rid of them naturally. So the best organic method as far as getting rid of your Japanese beetles is to take a bucket of soapy water, go out first thing in the morning before they're active, and you knock them into the soapy water. Full disclosure, y'all, I have got too many plants and I do not have enough time. And honestly, that is about the last thing that I want to do is to walk through acres of gardens first thing every morning and knock off Japanese beetles. If you have the time and the space and you only have 1 or 2 plants, then and that works for you, then that is great. With me and the number of plants that I have and the way that Japanese beetles are, we have taken kind of a whole approach to it. So in our grass, we treat it with milky spores. Milky spores is an organic solution that will kill, the bacteria is that it will kill the grubs of the Japanese beetles in the grass because that's where they lay their eggs. That's where the larva is in the grass. So basically you're going to kill the babies in their larva stage in the grass before they ever emerge. That is a great way to control the Japanese beetle population. However, it takes years to get that built up, especially if you have a large area of grass. But we do that, and it has made a difference. I also have to go through and just treat my individual plants. So I use a systemic that I will mix up and pour around the base of the plant. So this will work on any plant that the Japanese beetles will eat on. My roses, my hibiscus, my Japanese maples, those kinds of things. And so you mix it up based off of what the plant size is, and then the plant soaks it up and it protects it on anything that chews. So Japanese beetles, the leaf miner caterpillars, the aphids, anything that chews on the plant. It lasts for 12 months. There you go. That has been my greatest success and my greatest weapon against the Japanese beetles. We have got another rose standard here. We kind of affectionately call this Emily's rose here at the nursery. Let me tell you why. This is a Julia Rose standard. So we have yet another standard. She has broken free of her post, so I need to get her shored back up. We had some Julia Rose standards at the nursery years ago, and this one was the last one. It did not sell. It was really, honestly, quite kind of pathetic looking. And so Emily, who's our oldest daughter, was like, I want to save this, rose. And I was like, okay. So we call it Emily's rose, but ask me how much the poor child takes care of this rose. Now she is at school, so I will give her that. But yes, so Emily saved it and I take care of it. But the Julia Rose is named, of course, after Julia Child. Because it is this perfect color of rich butter. And if you know anything about Julia Child, that she loved to cook with butter. And so this rose starts out a really deep, deep yellow, and then it will age to a nice, soft, pale yellow. Has a great fragrance to it. And so it is back here in the back. It is just now really kind of starting to come into her own. And you can see that, yes, she is a little bit misshapen. It was really hard to kind of bounce back from the, the disaster that she was. But you know what, y'all? We don't have to have perfect plants, perfect specimens in the garden all the time. It is okay. It is character. That's what I tell Cece. I'm like, Cece, it doesn't have to be, quote, perfect. It does not have to be magazine worthy all the time in every nook and cranny of the garden. It is character. And this rose has a story because of our sweet little Emily. And yeah, so I will take her fun and funky and in all her different shapes, but she is loaded with her beautiful blooms. And then we have a little friend. Hopefully he won't move. We have a sweet little, and I don't know, lizard, a knoll, what he is, but he is basking in the sun in the middle of all the roses. So we're just gonna let him hang out right there. Our last rose update for today. She's not really in, they're not really in full bloom, but I wanted to give you an update. So again, if you are a watcher of Creekside Nursery, Gardening with Creekside, you may recall that last summer I discovered that I had rose rosette disease on, it was actually on just one, maybe possibly two, if I remember correctly, of my poet's wife David Austin roses. So they were back here in the island bed, and so rose rosette disease, I will link that video for you. If you've discovered that you have rose rosette disease, there is no cure. You've got to dig it up and put it in the trash can. So once you get it, there is no going back. It is very very noticeable that you have it because it deforms how the rose is, how it grows. So you'll know right away if you have rose rosette disease. It is transferred, you get rose rosette disease by and forgive me, it's in the video, but basically a bug who has it and comes and chews on your plant, and then boom, there you go, your plants are infected. So this is why it's so important to take care of them and make sure that they have adequate water and food, and then that they are protected against those little bugs. So I took them out, and then I went ahead and ordered 3 more Poet's Wipes. They were delivered last fall, put them up in 1-gallon containers, grew them out over the winter, and then I'm going to add them back. They are sitting here waiting to be planted back in the garden. Different people say different things as far as you can't ever replace, you can't ever like replant a rose in that spot again. You have to wait 2.5 years, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to go ahead and go for it. I am going to go ahead and plant them because that disease is transferred by the bugs chewing. And so these, I took all the roots out, I took all the plants out, so it cannot just live and hang out in the soil. So we're gonna replant them. Some of y'all may be going, well, Jenny, that's the dumbest idea ever. You're gonna get rose rosette disease right back again. I'll let you know. If I do, there you go. They'll get ripped out and I will never put roses in here again. But what if it works great? Then we're gonna go for it, and I'm going to have 3 gorgeous Poet's Wipes right here, a beautiful hedge right there for us. Now, again, how do we take care of them? The last thing that I have for you is you have to feed your roses. In order to produce these beautiful flowers, these beautiful foliage that stays nice and green and healthy, you got to feed your plants, people. So I use a slow release fertilizer. I use Rose Tone according to the package on Rose Tone. You feed your plants, your roses, once a month during the growing season. So as soon as you start to see those leaves emerge, you begin feeding, and you go all the way through, I think it says like early fall. So I have set, for me, the first of the month. That is easy for me to remember. So the first of the month, give or take, because there's grace in gardening, I go through and I feed all of my roses. So far, I have not missed a month, so yay for me, and I will continue to do that. Just follow the instructions on the bag as far as how much to use. And then of course, water. Roses love water, so that consistent water makes a huge difference. So I hope you have enjoyed this rose tour. We do have a good number of roses also at the in the signature garden. Because those are in the shade a little bit longer in the morning, they have not hit their full stride yet. Once they are in full bloom, I will give you an update on those as well, because oh my, they are loaded with buds and they are going to be stunning. So if you have ever thought about growing roses, I would encourage you to do it. Do at least one. Like I said, for years, I thought roses were going to be too much work, too much of divas in the garden. And yes, they do require some work, but so does every other shrub out there. And the reward for me is absolutely worth it. That's the great thing about gardening. We all get to make the decision. Is this plant worth the effort? Some years it is, and some years it's not. It's okay, my friends. And if you don't want to grow roses, I hope you just enjoyed the beauty that I was able to share with you today. As always, we so appreciate you. Please make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss those 5 videos that we do each and every week. Y'all have an amazing day. I will see you in the next video. Bye, friends.